Hi, sir. My father had the same birthmark. 7 words. That's all it took to freeze a billionaire mid-dinner. And in that moment, he didn't see the steak, the server, or the crystal glasses sparkling under chandelier light. He saw his past, unburied, uninvited, unforgiving, a woman he let go, a daughter he never knew, and a truth that wore her mother's eyes. She didn't shout. She didn't demand anything. She just pointed to his wrist with the calm of someone who's carried silence for far too long. And in that instant, Raymond Whitmore trembled, because when destiny demands justice, it doesn't come with lawyers. It comes with a girl in an apron, a memory in her voice, and a question no empire can silence. Get ready for a powerful, cinematic story where silence is betrayal, and memory is the one witness that never forgets. If you believe every daughter deserves to be heard, and every father should face the truth, tap the like button, subscribe, and comment below. The truth always finds a way. Hi, sir. My father had the same birthmark. 7 words. That's all it took to freeze a billionaire mid-dinner, and in that moment he didn't see the steak, the server, or the crystal glasses sparkling under chandelier light. He saw his past, unburied, uninvited, unforgiving. A woman he let go, a daughter he never knew, and a truth that wore her mother's eyes. She didn't shout, she didn't demand anything. She just pointed to his wrist with the calm of someone who's carried silence for far too long. And in that instant, Raymond Whitmore trembled, because when destiny demands justice, it doesn't come with lawyers. It comes with a girl in an apron, a memory in her voice, and a question no empire can silence. Get ready for a powerful, cinematic story where silence is betrayal, and memory is the one witness that never forgets. If you believe every daughter deserves to be heard, and every father should face the truth, tap the like button, subscribe, and comment below. The truth always finds a way. The silver fork hovered mid-air. Raymond Whitmore, real estate magnate, billionaire investor, the man whose last name towered above Chicago in steel and glass, had paused, not because of the food, not because of the senator seated across from him, but because of a voice, quiet, steady, and hauntingly familiar. Maya stood beside him in her uniform, black apron, hair pulled back, and hands trembling just slightly as she gripped the water pitcher. She knew the rules: speak only when spoken to, smile, serve, disappear. But this wasn't a moment for protocol. She had seen the mark, faint, crescent-shaped, sitting just inside his left wrist like a half-moon secret written into his skin. Exactly like hers, exactly like her mother said her father's had been. Raymond blinked, slowly. The gala around them didn't notice the shift in gravity. Champagne flowed. The jazz trio in the corner slid into something smooth and forgettable. Conversations buzzed like white noise, but at table 7, time stopped breathing. I didn't mean to disturb you, Maya added quickly. It's just, my mom used to say, if you ever meet a man with that birthmark on his wrist, remember it. Your father had one too. Raymond's jaw clenched. His gaze didn't falter. Behind her, waiters kept moving. Politicians laughed, but Maya's world had narrowed to just him and that quiet mark. She took a step back. Her apron brushed against the linen-draped table as she turned, retreating toward the kitchen. And Raymond, he watched her go. His assistant leaned in, whispering sharply about optics, donors, and the press. He didn't respond. He couldn't. Because suddenly he was no longer in a ballroom. He was in Savannah, paint fumes, dusty canvases. Elise, the girl who painted dreams and kissed him like rebellion. The girl his family said would ruin everything. The one he let walk away. Before she had the chance to tell him she was carrying a piece of his soul. Now that piece had spoken. And as Maya slipped behind the swinging kitchen doors, Raymond looked down at the inside of his wrist. The mark was still there. But everything else had changed. Raymond didn't sleep that night. His penthouse, high above the restless lights of downtown Chicago, offered silence, but not peace. The city pulsed beneath him. Traffic, sirens, nightlife, yet none of it reached the space between his ribs where the ache had begun. He sat in the dark, no scotch, no jazz, just his own breathing and the memory of her eyes. Maya, she had the same fire, the same defiance Elise used to carry like armor. That look of someone who didn't ask for permission to exist, and the way she stood her ground, even with her hands trembling. God, it was like Elise had stepped back into the room wearing her daughter's skin. He glanced at his wrist again, still there, that faint crescent, a meaningless birthmark, until it became a question he couldn't ignore. He rose and crossed the room to the study. The drawer hadn't been opened in years. Not since the early days, when his heart still bled quietly for the girl who vanished without a trace. Inside, a box of old photographs, letters never opened. One envelope, yellowed and sealed, still bore the return address from Savannah. He had shoved it in the back of the drawer the same week his father told him to shut the door on distractions. He remembered that week. He remembered Elise's voice, soft and cracking, when she asked, "Do you love me enough to stay?" And he remembered choosing silence. He never answered her, not with words. He answered her with absence. Raymond slumped into the leather chair and stared out the window. Snow drifted against the glass, catching light like ash in moonlight. His fingers hovered above the old envelope, but he still didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, he powered up his laptop and searched her name. Elise William, Savannah, Georgia. It didn't take long. A few scattered mentions, an old art exhibit. Then, an obituary. 8 years ago. Cervical cancer. Survived by one daughter, Maya Elise William. No father listed. His throat tightened. He clicked on the image beside the article. It was her. Older, yes. Thinner. But still Elise. Still those same dust-colored eyes and that tilted smile. She had died alone. And she had never told him. Raymond's mind reeled back to that night on the bridge, the way she'd said goodbye like she was walking away from a storm that had already passed through her. He thought she was done with him. He never considered that she might have been protecting something, someone now named Maya. The ache in his chest deepened into a kind of shame he couldn't mask with wealth or foundation galas. He had built towers, funded scholarships, donated millions to urban renewal, but none of it could fix what he never bothered to ask. Had Elise ever tried to reach him? Had Maya spent her life wondering why he didn't? Raymond reached for the envelope again, but this time he opened it. Inside, a single folded letter in Elise's looping handwriting. "If our daughter ever finds you, please be kind. Please be better than silence." His hand shook. And for the first time in decades, Raymond Whitmore cried. The buzz of the kitchen drowned out her thoughts. Clattering plates, sharp commands, the sizzle of oil. But Maya didn't hear any of it. Not really. She stood at her locker, hands still damp from the pitcher she'd dropped off in the sink, staring at the inside of the metal door where she'd taped a photo of her mother. Elise, age 21, smiling in a hospital gown, baby Maya swaddled in her arms. Her mother looked exhausted, but proud. Alone, but unafraid, just like Maya felt now. Behind her, the manager's voice droned on, scolding her for breaking guest boundaries and jeopardizing VIP experience. Words like unprofessional, reprimand, and final warning floated past her ears like smoke. She nodded, apologized, walked out without hearing half of what he said. That night, back in her studio apartment in Southside, she didn't cry. She didn't journal. She just stared, the photo on her mirror, yellowing at the edges. The letter in her drawer, the one Elise had written years ago, addressed to no one. She unfolded it again. The ink was faded, but the message was fire. If our daughter ever finds him, don't let her beg. Let her demand. Let her speak. And if he listens, maybe he deserves to stay. Maya whispered into the still air. "I think I found him, Mom, but I don't know what that means." The next morning, she sat at Mrs. Evans's kitchen table, the older woman stirring oatmeal in the same pot she'd used to feed Maya since she was 5. The walls of the apartment were lined with paintings Elise had gifted her, a way of staying present. even after she was gone. He saw it, Maya said softly, pushing a spoon through her untouched bowl. The birthmark. I know he saw it, and he didn't deny it, but he didn't say a word. Mrs. Evans turned from the stove, eyes sharp behind thick glasses. Some men shake because they've seen a ghost, child. Others because they've seen the truth too late. Maya looked up, voice cracking. Did my mom ever tell you who he was? The woman hesitated, then nodded slowly. She said his name once. Raymond. I didn't know the last name till I saw it in a magazine. Big article, skyscrapers, suits. But she said he had kind eyes and a weak backbone. Maya let out a short, bitter laugh. She never told me that. She didn't want you hating a ghost, Mrs. Evans said, and she sure didn't want you chasing one. I'm not chasing anyone, Maya said, sitting up straighter, but I deserve to know where I come from, don't I? Mrs. Evans stared at her for a long moment, then finally nodded. You do, but child, be careful. Truth and justice ain't always the same thing. Maya didn't flinch. That afternoon she went to the library, not for books, but for memory. She found herself drawn to the microfilm archives, digging through Savannah newspapers from 2001, and there it was, page 6 of the Savannah Times, a headline, Whitmore Development Breaks Ground on Riverside Project. The photo was grainy, black and white. Raymond stood in the center, shaking hands with a local official, but on the far left edge, barely visible, was Elise, paint-stained hands, standing behind him. The caption read, Local artist Elise William assists with mural concept. Maya's chest tightened. Her mother hadn't been some passerby. She had been part of it, of him, and yet history had erased her. But not this time. Raymond didn't go into the office that morning. Instead, he sat in his private study on the 38th floor of the Whitmore Tower. The Chicago skyline stretched endlessly behind him. The usual rhythms of his day, investor calls, foundation meetings, boardroom negotiations, were suddenly irrelevant. On his desk sat a slim folder. Inside it, the obituary, the photograph, Elise's name printed beside a date of death, and one sentence that kept echoing in his mind, survived by one daughter. He had read it a dozen times, but today it hit differently. Raymond picked up his phone and dialed a number from memory, one that hadn't changed in over a decade. Theo Carter, a gravelly voice answered. I need confirmation, Raymond said. Theo paused. Confirmation of what? That a girl named Maya Elise William is exactly who I think she is. You think she's yours? I don't want to think, Raymond replied. I want to know. Quietly, discreetly. You're the only person I trust with this. Theo, a former FBI investigator and lifelong fixer for the Whitmore family, sighed. You understand what you're asking? I'm not asking for surveillance, Raymond said, voice tight. I'm asking for clarity. There was a pause, then the rustle of paper on the other end. Give me 48 hours. Raymond hung up, then sat back in his chair, hands steepled under his chin. He couldn't sit still. He rose, pacing the room like a man on trial. The problem wasn't just what he might find, it was what he might feel. The night Elise left Savannah, she'd tried to speak to him. He remembered her voice on the phone, quiet and urgent. He had been in a meeting, told his assistant to take a message. He never called her back. Now he wondered, was that the call that could have changed everything? Later that afternoon, Theo sent over a scanned document, a kindergarten enrollment form from 2007. Under father's name, the space had been left blank, but paper-clipped to the back, a photo, recent, taken just days ago. Maya, stepping out of a subway station, headphones on, sketchpad tucked under one arm. Raymond stared at the image. She looked nothing like the Elise he remembered. But everything about her posture, her squared shoulders, her steady gaze, was unmistakably Elise. He whispered her name aloud. Elise. He hadn't said it in over 2 decades, and somehow it felt heavier than all the glass and steel he'd built in her absence. He picked up the old letter again. If our daughter ever finds you, please be kind Please be better than silence. And now that silence had a name, a voice, a pulse. Raymond looked at the photo of Maya again. This time he didn't feel haunted. He felt summoned, not by guilt, not by legacy, but by the one thing he had run from for 21 years, love he had abandoned, and the daughter born from it. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to be better than silence. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly. Maya stepped inside, her coat still damp from the morning drizzle. It was a small place on the south side. Wood-paneled walls, a chalkboard menu, and mismatched chairs that gave the room the feel of a place that remembered people even after they were gone. She chose it on purpose. Her mother used to come here on her lunch breaks from the art studio, before the chemo, before the waitressing, before the silence took over their lives. Elise had loved this place. Maya needed that energy with her today. She scanned the room. He was already there. Raymond Whitmore. No entourage, no assistant, no press. Just a black wool coat folded over the chair beside him and a porcelain cup of untouched coffee sitting at the center of the table. He stood when he saw her. "Maya," he said gently. She nodded, not offering a smile. "Mr. Whitmore." He gestured for her to sit. She did, slowly, deliberately, without removing her coat. She didn't want to get comfortable. He noticed. Silence stretched between them. But this silence wasn't empty. It was full of years, of absence, of things never said. Raymond cleared his throat. "Thank you for meeting me. I didn't do it for you." He accepted that. "I understand." Another pause. "I read your blog," he said. "All of it." "Then you know why I'm here." He nodded. "You want answers?" "No." Her voice was firm. "I deserve them." His jaw tensed. He didn't argue. Instead, he looked at her fully, as if memorizing her features, finding Elise in every curve of her face, every shadow behind her eyes. "I didn't know about you," he said at last. "Not until the other night. When you said what you said, I saw her. I saw Elise, and I wasn't ready for that." Maya blinked hard but didn't look away. "You say you didn't know," she said. "But did you ever wonder?" Raymond hesitated, then nodded. "In the early years, yes. After she left, I thought about it. I thought about her. But my life, my family, they made it clear. Move forward or fall behind. And I convinced myself not asking was mercy." "You convinced yourself," Maya repeated bitterly. "But that's not mercy, that's cowardice." "Yes," he said. "It was." The coffee between them had gone cold. "She painted you," Maya said suddenly. Raymond's brows furrowed. "My mom, even when she hated herself for it. She painted you. Every canvas was a memory you didn't earn." He lowered his gaze. "She said I had kind eyes. I never believed her, until now." Raymond leaned forward slightly, his voice lower. "I would give anything to undo what I didn't do, but I can't. All I can offer is what I have left. The truth, the presence, the willingness to be part of what you'll allow." Maya stared at him, long and hard. "I'm not here for your money, or your name." "I believe you," he said quietly. "I just want to know." Her voice cracked slightly, but she steadied it. "Did you love her? My mother?" Raymond didn't blink. "Yes, more than I had the courage to say, more than I had the spine to protect." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "And me?" she whispered. "If you had known, would you have wanted me?" Raymond reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a photograph, creased, black and white. He placed it on the table. Elise, pregnant, standing barefoot by a river, hands over her belly. She sent it. "I never opened the envelope. Until last week." Maya covered her mouth with her hand. "I didn't want to know," he said, "because knowing made me accountable. And I wasn't ready for that." "I don't need kindness," she said. "I need memory." She reached into her bag and pulled out a small sketch, hand-drawn, faded with time. It showed her mother, herself, and an imagined man, her father, with a crescent-shaped birthmark drawn on his wrist. Raymond stared at it, hands trembling. "You drew this?" "I was 10. I didn't know what you looked like, so I imagined you." Raymond swallowed hard. "You gave me more kindness than I deserved." She stood. "This isn't kindness," she said. "It's witness." At the door, she paused. "I don't need a father. I've come this far without one. But if you want to be anything now, be someone I can respect. That would mean more than blood ever could." And then she left. Raymond remained seated, the sketch in his hand, and for the first time in 2 decades, he felt like a man, not just a name. Raymond didn't leave the cafe for a long time. Even after Maya walked out, even after the waitress refilled his untouched cup twice and the midday crowd came and went, he just sat there, the sketch in his hands, the photo of Elise on the table, the air between them still holding her presence. When he finally stepped outside, the wind off Lake Michigan cut through his coat like guilt through memory. Back at the penthouse, he ignored the blinking lights on his phone, messages from his lawyer, his foundation board, even the mayor's office. He poured himself a glass of water, sat in the chair by the window, and stared out at the city. So many buildings, so much legacy. None of it could fill the hollow she left behind. He picked up the letter again, Elise's words. "She isn't shame. She is light. You owe her truth, not avoidance." It rang louder now than it ever had. That night, Maya didn't tell anyone about the meeting. Not Mrs. Evans, not her co-workers, not even her reflection in the mirror. She just sat on the couch in silence, the sketchbook on her lap, fingers brushing the drawing of a father she'd once imagined into existence. That image no longer felt fictional. He was real now, flawed, fragile, human, and maybe redeemable. The next morning, Maya opened her laptop and reread the blog post she had saved as a draft days ago. The girl with no father and a birthmark full of questions. She hovered her finger over the publish button, then clicked. It took hours, maybe less, for the post to go viral. Not just on platforms for children of absentee parents, not just in communities of black artists, but on forums about family, legacy, race, and reparations. The headline was raw and clear. "I don't want inheritance, I want identity." People shared their own stories. Some wrote, "My dad never showed up either." Others, "This made me call my daughter." And in the middle of it all, Raymond read the post. Every single word. He didn't skim. He didn't flinch. He read it like confession, like scripture. She wrote, "I'm not asking to be claimed. I'm asking to be remembered. My mother loved a man who forgot her, and I lived in that forgetting, but I refuse to be erased." Raymond closed the laptop and sat back, broken open by the sharpness of her voice. Not angry, not cruel, just honest. And that honesty cut deeper than any lawsuit or accusation ever could. He picked up his phone, dialed Theo. "I need the number," he said. "Maya's?" "Yes, sir. What are you hoping she'll say?" Raymond was silent for a moment. "I'm not hoping for anything. I'm hoping to listen." Later that evening, Maya received a call from an unknown number. She didn't answer. A voicemail followed. "Miss William, this is Raymond Whitmore. I'd like to speak with you privately, at your convenience." She didn't call back. Not that night. Not the next. Instead, she walked to Mrs. Evans' house and stood in the doorway like she had as a child, coming home with scraped knees and big questions. "He reached out," she said softly. Mrs. Evans didn't turn from her plants. "And what did you say?" "Nothing yet." The old woman nodded slowly. "That's still saying something." Maya stepped inside, dropped her bag, and slumped into the armchair. "Do you think he knew?" she asked. Mrs. Evans turned. Her voice was gentle, but her eyes sharp. "I think some men don't ask questions because they're afraid of the answer, and others because they already know." Maya stared out the window. A boy on a bike rode past, laughing. Something in her chest twisted. She didn't know what to do next. She only knew one thing. The silence wasn't safe anymore, and she wasn't going back into it. Savannah smelled the same. Wet earth, Spanish moss, sweet rot, the kind of scent that clung to memory and refused to be forgotten. Maya hadn't been back since the funeral, 8 years ago, when the world had felt too heavy for someone her age to carry. Now, stepping off the train in her mother's city of secrets, it didn't feel like closure. It felt like confrontation. Beside her stood Raymond, not in a limousine, not in a tailored suit, just a dark coat, both hands wrapped around a modest bouquet of white camellias, flowers her mother once called soft rebellions. He had offered to drive. She said no. She wanted the ache in her legs to match the ache in her chest. They walked in silence, down cobblestone streets, past porches with rocking chairs that creaked in the breeze. Every turn felt like a memory Maya couldn't fully hold, hazy, half-heard echoes of her mother's voice humming while sketching from the front steps. Raymond glanced at her every few paces like he wanted to speak, but he didn't, and Maya didn't ask him to. Some silences needed to breathe before they could break. Hillcrest Cemetery was quiet under the stretch of a grey sky. Magnolia trees drooped low, like they were bowing to the grief of those who wandered beneath them. At the gate, Maya paused. "She used to bring me here," she said, "on Sundays, not just to visit Grandma. She said cemeteries had stories, that you had to listen with your whole body." Raymond nodded. She always saw what others missed. They followed the gravel path until they reached the stone. Simple, weathered, no statues, no ornate markers. Elise A. William, 1979-2015. She painted silence into color. Maya knelt. Her fingers traced the engraved name. She didn't cry. Not this time. The grief had moved. It wasn't gone. It had just settled deeper into a place where it no longer demanded attention, only respect. Raymond placed the flowers gently at the base of the headstone. Then he reached into his coat and pulled something from an inner pocket. "I wasn't sure when I'd give this to you," he said softly, "but this felt like the right place." He handed it to her, something wrapped in a velvet cloth. Inside, a delicate silver locket, worn smooth with time. Maya opened it slowly. On one side, a photograph of her mother, aged 20, laughing barefoot by the river. On the other, a small pressed camellia, white, fragile, eternal. "She gave that to me," Raymond said, voice cracking. "Our last night together. I never opened it. Not until last week." Maya held the locket in her palm, fingers brushing the edge. She always gave people small pieces of herself, like she was afraid to give too much. "She gave me more than I ever deserved," he replied, "and far more than I ever acknowledged." A breeze rustled the trees. The magnolia blossoms swayed above them like whispers being released. "She never wanted to be a burden," Maya said. "Not even when she got sick. She left voice notes for me just in case. I still have them. I don't listen often, but sometimes I need her voice more than her advice." Raymond looked at her. "I wish I could have been there. For her. For you. You weren't," she said simply. "But you're here now, and you're not hiding." He nodded. "I'm not." Maya placed the locket beside the flowers. She would have liked this. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. They stood together for a long time, neither ready to leave. But the sky darkened, and the air grew cold. Eventually Maya turned. Raymond lingered a second longer, brushing his fingers over the top of the stone, like he was trying to memorize it. Then he followed. On the walk back, his voice broke the quiet. "When I was young, my father told me that emotion was weakness, that dignity meant silence." Maya stopped, looked him straight in the eye. "You don't have to be your father." Raymond held her gaze. "I know. I'm trying not to be." As they reached the cemetery gate, Maya hesitated. "I want to come back here every year on this day." Raymond nodded. "I'll come with you." She didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She just kept walking, and he followed, quiet beside her. Not as the man who once ran away, but as the man who was, finally, choosing to stay. The rain in Savannah was soft, not a storm, not a downpour, just that gentle southern kind of rain that feels more like memory than weather. Maya and Raymond walked side by side beneath it, the cemetery behind them, the silence between them no longer hollow, but full. She didn't say much. He didn't push. When they reached the edge of the historic district, Maya paused under a blooming magnolia tree. Pale petals clung to wet branches, whispering in the wind. Raymond reached into his coat pocket and handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A letter," he said. "Not legal. Not official, just words. Mine. And Maya opened it right there. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, the words simple but raw. Dear Maya, I missed your birth, your first steps, your scraped knees. I missed your drawings, your questions, your fears. I missed it all. But if you let me, I'd like to be here for what comes next. Not because I deserve it, but because I want to earn it. She folded the letter gently and tucked it into her coat. Let's get some coffee, she said, surprising even herself. There's a place 2 blocks from here. It's not fancy, but their peach cobbler tastes just like hers. Raymond smiled. It wasn't tentative this time. It was warm. Lead the way. The cafe was small, whitewashed brick, a ceiling fan that squeaked every third turn, a chalkboard menu that hadn't been rewritten in years, and a tip jar that said, give what you can, get what you need. Elise had loved this place. Maya remembered her humming here, sketching strangers with half-dried pens and folding napkins into tiny cranes. Now Maya sat at the same corner table, across from the man she used to imagine as a child, not with fairy tales or wishes, just questions. He took a bite of cobbler and let out a quiet, surprised breath. She had good taste, he said. She usually did, Maya replied softly, except when it came to trusting silence. He nodded, accepting the sting. She deserved better. So did you. She studied him. Then why didn't you fight for us? Raymond placed his fork down carefully. Because I was raised to believe the world belonged to men like me, as long as we didn't make noise. My father told me, love her, and you lose everything. He paused, and I was too cowardly to see that what I lost by staying quiet was worth far more than anything they could have taken. Maya let that sit in the air, then said, almost without realizing, you said something at the gallery about being known. I want you to know something too. I didn't need your name to survive. I just needed someone to show up. He met her eyes. I'm here now. You're trying, she corrected. And I'm trying to let you. That's the hard part. They finished the meal in quiet reflection. No rush, no agenda, just the strange stillness of a truth shared at last. Outside, the rain had slowed. Maya stood, pulling her coat around her shoulders. Walk me to the train, she asked. Of course, Raymond replied, already reaching for the umbrella. They walked slowly down the street, past bookshops and brick porches, their footsteps soft against the damp sidewalk. At the platform, Maya turned under the awning. This doesn't fix everything, she said. There's a lot we'll never get back. I know. But it's something, she added. A start, he nodded. She looked at him, really looked. Not as a myth, not as a ghost, but as a man trying to learn how to stay. My mom once said love isn't about being there when it's easy. It's about staying, when it's inconvenient, when it hurts. I'm not leaving, he said. She stepped forward and hugged him. It wasn't long, it wasn't tight, but it was full, and when she stepped onto the train, she didn't look back, not because she didn't care, but because for the first time in her life she didn't have to wonder if he'd disappear. Raymond stayed on the platform long after the train vanished down the tracks. The umbrella dangled from his hand. Rain slid down his face, but he didn't move. He felt the water like permission to feel, to grieve, to begin. Back in Chicago, Maya returned to the community art studio where she taught on weekends. A student, no older than 10, looked up from her painting and asked, Miss Maya, do grown-ups ever get scared? Maya smiled. All the time, she said. But some of them keep showing up anyway. That night, she opened her sketchbook. On a fresh page, she drew 3 hands, one young, one weathered, and one holding them both. Each wrist bore the same crescent-shaped birthmark. Not a curse, not a shame. A story rewritten, not by blood, by choice, by the ones who showed up.